But notice, Paul did not say, none of these things hurt me. He said, none of these things move me. Friends, we will not be pain and suffering free, but we will be pain and suffering proof. The rock may break us for a time, but we're still going to work. We might get dropped in the pool, but the waters will not drown us. We are not pain and suffering free, but we are pain and suffering proof. We might bear the marks of Jesus on our bodies, but we will say, none of these things move me, because no matter what moving circumstances are allotted in the various essential aspects of my today and tomorrow and the departments of my life, this I know, that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the rock upon which I stand. Paul will give us great, various, sundry reasons why we should not worry. Paul lays out a great taxonomy in regards to our future destiny. Remember, worry has to do with the future. Most of our problems are imaginary. And what we need to remember is Antonio Damasio, the neuroscientist, told us that 95% of the time, it's our feelings and emotions that decide for us. Science shows us that we will opt time and time again for what feels good rather than we know will benefit us in the long run. And if it feels good to kind of marinate in our worries because we think we're somehow solving problems when we're just ruminating over them, the truth of the matter is, oftentimes it's our feelings that decide for us, but there are moments when you have to fight for what you don't feel, because hope is a journey, joy is a choice, and as my sister Christy always says, according to Joyce Meyer, let your emotions subside, then decide. My friends, you were destined not for worry, you were destined for an inheritance. Now, let me give you some context. This is a glorious future that Paul paints, one you should not worry about, but be excited about. Let me explain. Paul the Apostle went to Ephesus, where he ministered for, scholars say, between 2 to 3 years. Now, he encountered a bunch of magicians. You remember on one of his missionary journeys, he encountered Simon the sorcerer, and he would encounter people doing witchcraft. Now, I did give a message recently about Harry Potter, and I pointed out how Harry Potter was actually written by a Christian. J.K. Rowling didn't want to reveal her Christian faith until the book was done, her tenuous Christian faith, because she was afraid that it would, in fact, key people in on, like a spoiler alert, where the book would end, that, spoiler alert, Harry rises from the dead. So J.K. Rowling was a Christian, C.S. Lewis was a Christian, or J.K. Rowling is a Christian, she's still alive. C.S. Lewis is a Christian, J.R.R. Tolkien is a Christian. Tolkien talks about Gandalf's wizardry, he's a magician. C.S. Lewis talks about Aslan abiding by the laws of elder magic, right? Talks about magic. J.K. Rowling uses magic. None of those three Christians were practicing sorcery, just so you know. They don't practice sorcery. That's not literal, it's literature. There's a difference between the two. So Paul encountered a bunch of people who were magicians. That doesn't mean they were reading literature as metaphors. It means they were actually practicing sorcery. There's a big dichotomous difference and contrast and juxtaposition against and between the two. They're in contradistinction to one another, diametrically opposed. He encounters these people who are literally practicing pharmakia, they're practicing sorcery, they're practicing witchcraft. They repent, and then they create this big bonfire, and they start burning all of their magician books, like all of the books that teach them how to practice sorcery, not Expelliarmus or Expecto Patronum. I mean real magic, or whatever I don't know if you believe magic is real. I'm just saying, basically, let's just say demonic. Is that safe? Am I safe to say that? So here's the thing. They burn all their books in this fire. It was today's equivalent of $50,000 worth of literature, worth of books that they burned that were, in their minds, literally teaching them to do magic. They burn that. They get saved. They turn away from their gods because they were a very spiritual people. They worshipped all these gods and goddesses, the chief one being the fertility goddess of nature, Diana, the Italian Roman goddess of the fertility of nature, who is also Artemis, not Artemis Fowl, the new Disney show or movie, but Artemis, the Greek goddess, the multi-breasted goddess. And they were living in this city that was incredibly spiritual, very magical. You think, yeah, our cities aren't like that today. Have you been to LA? Crystals! If I have enough crystals in my room, it'll help me to not worry anymore. I mean, we're living in a pretty mystical age ourselves. Now, Paul goes there, has this amazing ministry. The church, after a few centuries, had dissipated and fallen away. It basically evaporated, but for a time it was solid. Paul starts it, Apollos is part of it, Aquila and Priscilla are left there, the tent makers ministering over them. You had Timothy, who was one of the pastors and bishops over the church. It was really quite an amazing place. Now, Paul goes to Ephesus and he has this amazing ministry there. Paul, whenever he would go to a city, he would either like transmogrify its very zeitgeist, or he himself would undergo great physical attacks. Paul said, I myself bear on my body the marks of Jesus Christ. So it's not just that Jesus says, touch my wounds. Paul says, touch my wounds. He says, I myself bear in my body the marks of Jesus, which meant Paul's body was filled with scars. So Paul was, when he said, endure hardship as a good soldier, he had battle wounds. So if you get left for dead because rocks get thrown at you, you're in a dungeon all the time, you're whipped with lashes, you're scourged on the back and on the body, you're spending a day and night at the deep, you're shipwrecked. I mean, here was a guy who went through quite a lot. So he has scars on his body. He has the marks of Jesus on his body. Paul knew what it was like to suffer. His body, so when you picture Paul, picture his body literally covered in scars. Here's a battle-hardened warrior. Now, when Paul was talking to the Ephesian elders, no wonder he had such an impact on them. He said, none of these things move me. Now, it's one thing if you're like 500 pounds, you're a glutton, and you're like living in America, and you have like your Big Mac and your fries, and you're sitting on your love sack. I don't know if such a thing exists anymore. And you're like, none of these things move me. So of course, dude, you can't even move. You're eating so much McDonald's right now. Like, none of these things move me. What does that even mean? But if a battle-hardened soldier comes to you with the marks and scars literally on his body, and he says, none of these things move me, that will move you to action. It might even move you to tears. But notice, Paul did not say, none of these things hurt me. He said, none of these things move me. Friends, we will not be pain and suffering free, but we will be pain and suffering proof. The rock may break us for a time, but we're still gonna work. We might get dropped in the pool, but the waters will not drown us. We are not pain and suffering free, but we are pain and suffering proof. We might bear the marks of Jesus on our body, but we will say none of these things move me, because no matter what moving circumstances are allotted in the various essential aspects of my today and tomorrow and the departments of my life, this I know, that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the rock upon which I stand. I will not be shaken. I will not be moved. As the psalmist said, my feet will not slide, because I know who my God is. I know who I praise. Therefore, I'm going to praise the glory of his grace. He's taken care of me in the past, so why am I going to worry about the future? All of these things might hurt me, but none of these things move me. Come on, I'm getting pumped today. This is a hope message. This is hope for you today. This is something that we need in our generation. We live in such an anxious generation where parents are saying, I don't know what to do. If you have a kid who's a teenager or a millennial or whatever, Z or Y, I want to tell you, be sympathetic, listen, because our generation is going through so much depression. This is the message that we need today. Ben Courson here. Thank you so much for watching my new YouTube channel. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, share this video with all your friends, and hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. May the hope be with you.